mention of the Black Stars and how he should stand firm and ensure that nobody just throws players in there aside the technical team. Nobody who people of influence who sometimes want to try to use their influence to put players in the national team. We'll also take a listen to him on Asante Kotoko Matters.
It does not make sense that someone will be stabbed and killed at a football ground. The law must be applied strictly, and whoever is responsible should be made to pay for their crime. They all have to be arrested and jailed. And it doesn't matter which part of the stadium it happened. Someone was murdered, and that should be the focus.
Yeah, stuff to do, yeah. Oh, yeah. Good boy. Easy now, me take it things easy. Catch some cruise with my cheese. You spoke one for days. Come on for the body, no they breathe. Put on your shoe, make it stand that this. All your sorrow, make it dance them free. If you know be la yeah. If you know be la good them Fuji. One my go.
Our Kumasi operation, who is the editor of Insurance Sports, joins us. Also, Coach Osman Seidu and Atapoku, who is a seasoned analyst, will be joining us with their thoughts on this particular matter. So we'll start off with Bismarck Owusubempa. He reaches us on phone from the heart of the Garden City, Kumasi. Good afternoon to you, Ayala. Thank you very much for joining us. Can you hear me? Well, we'll come back to that. But before we listen to that as well and get into that conversation, we'll now bring you reaction from the Minister, Kofi Adams, on that visit where he spoke about issues of, getting to the bottom of that investigation and ensuring that people are arrested. We heard Otumfuo Osei-Tutu say very categorically that what the interest is on his side and on the side of the people is that the persons who were responsible for this are brought to book.
Regularly in conversation with the IGP and taking briefs. Onankasa show a lot of interest. That was asking, and he does follow up with TNA public and so Eka, your investigation for so Eka, a Biba Montana scientist and other reports come, he's following. So as soon as any ministry, so yes, he has sent YouTuber, and will make sure whoever is found to have played a role, Nana, it doesn't matter Libano status. We will see to it that punishment is given, such that ultimately, say we cry, is motivated, is encouraged to do any side thing. Like I said, the visa see and this and this and this was what happened to Omoa years at the end. It's unfortunate. So it has to take Yenya Denkwine to remind us. Say was say Yenya or say but if you are Okasana West, you don't want to use it. But Sanaba say Yenya Nuwa offer Muyen because it should be more like a sacrificial lamb to correct our football and our sports for once. Should be that to correct in football and sports for once. Now, at the appropriate time, any protocol, any whatever it is that we must do, so that from time to time. Say, Bibisa Attoh Union. He left home, a joyful husband, a joyful supporter.
Well, that assurance is clear. We've heard it, and so we're looking forward to seeing what will be done action-wise. Let's now begin on the phone lines and have a conversation with Bismarck Owusu-Bempah. He is the editor of Insura Sports. Do remember that Bismarck Owusu-Bempah was the same person who conducted extensive research into the reasons why our fans stay away, or football fans stay away, or potential football fans stay away from watching our Ghana Premier League matches and prefer to consume football from other or via other means. Now, he made those, findings, known when we hosted, a thought leadership event at the Labadi Beach Hotel a year and a half ago. Thank you very much, Bismarck, and good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Nat.
Look, like I said, you were key in executing that thought leadership event that we had, which threw extensive focus on why we're not getting numbers in our stands, and you brought out some findings. Today, unfortunately, we're having to go back to that because, first of all, the FA were not receptive toward that conversation. Secondly, you found out some things that are, that are now being made manifest. Some of these factors that you pointed out in that study.
I'm quite very, very sad to have this conversation, especially when the multimedia group have done a very, very good job to find why our fans are quite receptive to attending games on the domestic scene. And I remember so vividly that one of the factors why the supporters said they were not attending these games was the safety of the environment with which we intend them to come and watch games. And for us to happen, it just take us back to those issues we've raised and try to platform that all the stakeholders within our team should find it very, very important in making our venues for games very, very safe for everyone who want to come out and watch these games. And it goes deep into the mindset, the environment of being obsessed with 3 points, the disorientation of our support at our venues, the tribal undertones to our football, and lack of security infrastructure when we raise issues of domestic football. I am very, very sad that we are revisiting this issue, and it has taken in a demise of.
Well, apologies. Would try to re-establish contact with Bismarck Owusu-Bempah to bring us more on this particular subject. He expressed disappointment because you all do remember that he was key. He was a key member of the team who took it upon himself, together with the team in Kumasi, in our Kumasi operation, to ensure that we had, used a proper academic approach to this, or a technical approach to trying to bring out a problem. We're not just sitting in the comfort of our studios or in our newsrooms and our offices to just say anything about this product. Do remember that the Ghana Premier League is supposed to be a very big feeder and a platform for not only talents to develop themselves, but also to ensure that they're making a good living and fulfilling themselves. But is it? What kind of platform is it with all of these problems that we are encountering at this time? So the question we're asking this afternoon is, how do we make it attractive? And what are we supposed to do as a football collective? I'll now go to Atapoku. Atapoku is a seasoned football pundit, serves on various platforms, when it comes to football matters. This afternoon, he's joined us with his thoughts from the heart of the Garden City, Kumasi. Atapoku, thank you so much for your time. It's good to have you. It's been a while.
Well, thanks for having me. Best regards.
Yes, so we're just having a chat with Bismarck Owusu-Bempah, and he was talking about this, about how sad he feels, considering the fact that on our part, as a sports brand, a sports media brand, we've also made attempts to help the situation so that we find out, we go to the people, we ask them, what is it that takes you away from the stadium? And so that we put all of these findings, at the doorsteps of the people who run the game. But hey, it looks like nobody listens. But where do you view all of this from where you sit? The life owner of Asante Kotoko has spoken. Investigations are ongoing. Loads of feedback have been given this week. Pronouncements that were made on this platform and elsewhere have not been taken exactly well. Some out of context, some not received very well. And generally, there's a lot happening. How do you take all of it from where you sit?
Well, thank you very much once again, Nathaniel. It's quite painful hearing you speak like this because you've been around far longer than we have. You've experienced this thing closely as a fan and also as a journalist, and the level of advocacy that you've put up, hoping that something will change, is therefore to see. The worrying part of all this is that an academic approach has been used, advocacy has been made, you've reached out to people, trying to get the ideas, put everything together, set up a platform that did not have only the Football Association, but also the ministry. Every single stakeholder that matters was part of that forum. And we have to ask ourselves, why people are not, everyone has contributed to it. But can we look at the role of the main actors? Regardless of what you say, Nathaniel, nobody has hurt this brand much more than the main actors. Club owners, club administrators, footballers, and then club officials. There isn't a single discussion about hooliganism, keeping people away from the stadium, that wouldn't mention club owners or club officials. They are not doing their bit to raise the right amount of money to take care of their players. The right level of sponsorship are not pouring in. So everybody is cutting corners. And it was always going to get to this point. Players are not well paid. When they ask what is due, then they are branded as the spoiled brats. Club owners don't fear telling players, I'm only providing from do your bit and let's sell you outside so that you can go and get the right money there. So these clubs go about employing the services of hooligans to come and harass referees so that referees will give them dubious decisions. It happens every day. The pronouncements from club officials has not been the best. You can look at the charge sheet from the jail prosecutor and tell you quite a lot. It is mostly these club officials. The reality is, no matter how hard we all try, it's either they listen but don't act, don't listen at all. But I've actually also said that, look, This is what we are going to do, no matter what anybody says. After all, it is our private investment. And you guys can tell us as advocates or stakeholders, external ones, as a matter of fact, what to do. Nathaniel, you are working for the betterment of multimedia and also for your own development. Why are these people playing in leagues that they know very well at the end of the accounting year or the season's accounting, they are going to run at a loss and they are still involved in this? So what kind of football are you running? Is it that owners feel that it's a corporate social responsibility to run these clubs, or you want to realign the model of these clubs and run them in such a manner that they'll be profitable? Until we do this, we will continue to cry much more than the bereaved. And unfortunately, they won't mind us because irrespective of the losses, there is something they know that they get from this football that we don't know. Broadcast revenue, zero. Sponsorship revenue, zero. So why are they getting the money to pay their players, salary, enticement fees, their welfare, fueling their buses to go and play these league games? What are they getting that we don't know? Until we get to know what exactly they are getting from this football, we'll continue to be bystanders from the outside to these people who run the football in this country.
Attoh, very much for your opening thoughts. Tapuku there. Now let's get back to Bismarck Owusu-Bempah, who was, giving us some background and also expressing his disappointment, considering the fact that we here as a team have made major efforts. He led a lot of it, and here we are. Let's carry on with that the rest of that submission you were giving us earlier. Well, apologies for that. We will try our best to re-establish contact. Bismarck, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
So let's carry on with your thoughts. You mentioned very clearly that you were disappointed at the turn of events. Let's carry on from there.
Yeah, my disappointment and the grief of it is because we will have to come back and discuss this issue because someone is dead. A life has been taken. All the hints, all the work that we put in to make the FA and all the stakeholders understand that one of the preventive factors that is driving people away from the game is about the safety of these venues. Now, once we were able to communicate that to the stakeholders, you get the feeling that you see that the attitude of all the stakeholders to come to the table within some few days, give us an enhanced protocol and security measures at our venues. All that not. This should have been done after our engagement with these stakeholders. Not to wait for someone to die before we take this matter serious. We are being too reactive than proactive. And that is where, for me, I get by kind of attitude and behavior leadership show in this country. It's so important. Football determines product. You find out that people are not consuming the product. They should consume it. You didn't put it on yourself to do any research. A reputable media house put together a document saying, look, we've gone to your consumers, conducted research. They've given facts why they are not coming and consuming your products. And one of them is the safety of the environment with which you invite them to your product. Nobody took any proactive actions to this, and we are now back to finding someone dead. And we are going about showing some sense of seriousness. Look, it is important to say that nobody wishes bad or what has happened. Nobody wishes that it happened. But it goes back to leadership and that we take things for granted in this country. I'm so sad and disappointed that we have to discuss this issue again in the context of someone losing his life.
Well, we're still here on the Joy Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM. We're asking ourselves how we can recover from this period and move on in a positive direction where we can start getting results. We have heard from the sports minister. We have heard from Otumfuo Osei Tutu, who is the life owner of Kumasi Asante, one of the two clubs who were involved in this unfortunate incident. And, demands have been made of authority. Authority has also given assurances. Now, those of us in this space now are speaking because we have been in the center of it. We cover the games. We take it to the doorsteps of the people. But it looks like we're backtracking. And this is the common theme that's running through the thoughts that have been expressed so far. Good afternoon to the president of the African Weightlifting Federation, who's also president of the Ghana Federation, Mr. Charles Osei, who's also the general secretary of the Sports Writers Association of Ghana. Also to his vice president, who are listening to the show right now, and Dr. Kofi Addo-Ajekum. He's the vice president of the Ghana Weightlifting Federation. Everybody is interested in this particular matter, and it just tells you that we need to get a final solution and move and be accountable and ask for accountability. Let's bring into the conversation Yaw Ampofo-Ankra. Yaw Ampofo-Ankra, in terms of experience, has worked with every relevant sports media brand in this country and elsewhere on the African continent. He's also worked with the BBC, he's worked with SuperSport, and has done extensive work when it comes to the coverage of the Ghana Premier League. What I'd like Yaw Ampofo-Ankra to do at this time is to just take us back, rewind, especially to the unconverted, those who are listening to us this afternoon and asking themselves, oh, come on, man, I don't care about the Ghana Premier League. Well, those who have very good taste for quality entertainment and are asking themselves, why should I go there? Just in case they were born in a certain era which couldn't get them to see the beautiful days of the Premier League, where we're told, or where we saw individuals replace their alma mater stickers on their cars with club stickers. We saw all of that. And how do we get ourselves back to it? Yaw Ampofo-Ankra, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us on the show. I want you to take us back a little bit. I mean, we've all seen various legs and various eras of our local game. And just in case someone is listening and hasn't seen the beauty and the high patronage and the excitement around this, just take us back a little bit. Let's backtrack some, 19 to 18 years ago, and let's talk about it. Yaw, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Nats, and good afternoon to the rest of the panelists and your viewers in Ghana and across the world. Yes, I mean, Nats, we're having this conversation once again. It's not the first time. I believe, we've had similar conversations in the past when we've had crisis in football, but this takes it to a different dimension. So before I even go back a little bit, this is something that you'd have to probably help me with to go back and ask if you've ever had a case where a supporter has been murdered in cold blood, and what we have so far, it looks as if it was premeditated. That takes the conversation away from core hooliganism. Yes, there's hooliganism. There were elements of that. We saw elements of players and officials also behaving in a manner which doesn't augur well for the sport. But worst of all is somebody losing their lives in a premeditated murder. That makes it a different case altogether. And we need to be very concerned about it, not just in terms of football, but the larger society. What does this mean? And if we're not able to solve this dastardly act and we're not able to bring the perpetrator or perpetrators to book, then we have a huge problem beyond the Ghana Premier League, Kumasi Asante Kotoko, fans and footballers. So going back, as you rightly said, I think everyone can connect with Accra Hearts book and Kumasi Asante Kotoko. And forgive me for not using any other example, but I think when you mention these two clubs, straight away it rings a chord, even if you claim you do not support them. You and I were closely involved with the era where Hearts and Kotoko carried Ghana football on their shoulders. Herbert Mensah, Harry Zakor, two figures who were able to do this in a way that
I don't think we've seen since then. Maybe we saw it before you and I got involved in football or sports with the manner we have. But the way Hearts and Kotoko carried football in those years, that period, the golden years, and again, excuse me for using that term, because for some of us, it was our first and closest encounter with the passion, the raw energy, the politics, the media coverage, the personalities, the road shows. It was unbelievable. And we're also trying to find out in the industry. So it really had an impact on all of us. And I even remember Komla Dumont of blessed memory, who would tell you that he's not a football fan, getting involved because he felt that this is something he has not experienced. Hearts and Kotoko are playing next weekend in Kumasi. I want to be there. I want to watch it. What's going to happen? And that started week for the match. And then on the Friday, the Saturday before the match on Sunday, it was all about these two clubs and, the jargons and the back and forth and the bragging and the boasting and all the rest of it. But in the end, football was the winner. We've seen that spill over when we couldn't contain the expectations of one or both sides, where they felt referees or officialdom was favoring one side and the supporters could not contain themselves, and we had problems, and notably the May 9th disaster. But we've had glory days, and we've had eras where these were captured on Ghana television, the station of the nation, Metro TV, Supersport also coming in, that look, this product that we're seeing in Ghana is worth investing in. They've got the numbers, they've got the players, they've got the packaging, they've got people on the ground, the media, who can also help us to explore the opportunities. And we were able to do this very well for some years. But unfortunately, we may have gotten complacent. We may have gotten complacent, or we may have been lazy in keeping this product, thinking that it will be there, but without realizing that we need to work on it and we need to improve it year on, as we have in other countries. So that is where we need to have a conversation with regards to how we lost it and the competing interest of sports fans and viewers. These are all factors that we need to look at. But clearly, we've gone down this track where I think at the moment, Ghana football is at its lowest ebb. And I'm not just talking about the Ghana Premier League. You look across board, Ghana football is at its lowest ebb. And we need to have this conversation. We need to put pressure on the stakeholders. We need to put pressure on the policymakers. We need to put pressure on everybody involved to ensure that we have solutions that are workable and people to be tasked in doing that. If we don't do this now, we could lose this product, and getting it back could be a big problem.
Yeah, we'll come back to you in a bit, because you've raised a very important element of this conversation that many people are following, with all due respect, with great emotion. And it's understandable, because we're talking about death here. I sit here behind this console having lost my father 22 years ago. So I have been through it before, and I know what it feels like. And so I put myself in the shoes of those children who have lost their father. It is not a joke at all. And nobody is saying anything along the lines of this being a joke. This is a serious matter. Jan Pofankra raised a very important point. And that point is that there was a revelation made in the preliminary investigation that our beloved football fan, known as Poli, was killed outside the stadium. And there are indications based on the investigation that it could have been a premeditated murder. So this opens up a whole set of questions about the incident. Unfortunate as it may be, and at this point would like to once again say our hearts go out to the family, the immediately affected family. I'm talking about his widow and his children. He has a family as well, and they are worst hit by all of this. So now it opens up the very big conversation about the other questions that need to be asked about this. and how we're all waiting eagerly to see the next stage and the next stage of the conversation around this investigation. We're all looking forward to the end of the investigation and the results that will be brought and what will be communicated and what new information we'll be getting. As we do all of this, let's go to the United States of America, specifically in Fayetteville in North Carolina. Lawyer Listowel Yesu Bukasin used to work as the spokesperson for Kumasi Asante Kotoko. He also served the club during a period where we fairly had some very good interest around the league. Well, now it's died out and the problems seem to be just repeating themselves. Listowel, thank you very much for joining us and trust you're doing well.
Yes, good afternoon, and let me appreciate the opportunity and also say good afternoon to all of those great guys on the line. Sometimes I wonder how you panel these people, because for me, they know what it is that we are all about relative to football administration. Let me pick it from where you are left off. I think it was so insightful, and he touched on something that is of paramount interest to me relative to the fact that the person who was killed, Pole was killed, whether it's outside the stadium or inside the stadium, for now, for me, is irrelevant. But the fact that he mentions that it is premeditated murder. Now, you are talking about first-degree murder here. You are talking about the person having to commit the crime from a point of malice afterthought, which is murder, so to speak, in the law. Now, when you say somebody is being murdered, there's more to it. Bottom line here is that there's homicide. Homicide because somebody is died from somebody having to plan to kill the person. It's very tricky for me to want to make the conclusions of whether or not there's premeditated murder and all of that, because then it's very, very difficult in the law to want to prove specific intent in a case of homicide, where you draw a conclusion that somebody has been murdered, and therefore the person, even if they have defenses, cannot have their crimes mitigated to a position of, say, manslaughter, and you are looking at whether it's voluntary or involuntary manslaughter. These are legal issues. And so I think that, yes, somebody's died. That in itself connotes homicide. And as we respect the process going forward, let's see how the investigations play out. In fact, it is the reason I was taken aback and devastated when I heard a lead to the investigative team that presumably went to Insuatre to want to conduct that kind of investigation, who did come on radio. I'm not sure whether she did the interview on Joe or any of the other platforms.
Yeah, it was right here on this show. It was right here on this show, yes.
You know, a very, very respectable platform, national radio, and then just before the recommendations from the investigations are made clear and available to the appropriate courts and or courts who would want to interrogate the recommendations from the investigations. We hear then the things on the airwaves and everybody's discussing it. That is for me a no-no, and it's very disappointing that did happen. But regardless, whether the person died in the stadium or outside of the stadium, the person died because of football-related activity. The person went to the stadium. It is clear in the reports that we have gathered and gathered that the person went to the stadium. There's everything that indicates that this guy went to the stadium because of football. And so having to put that on the brakes for now because of the legalities that is engulfed in that situation, let me take us back to one of the very core points that is that well. We all have been around to see what happened, like you mentioned, May 9. I'm just saying this because I feel that we could and should have stopped this by now. May 9 happened. A lot of us were in mainstream sports journalism then. We were at the Accra Sports Stadium to see what happened at the Justice Sule Committee a commission, I should say, a lot of things came out. There were recommendations. I think there was a government white paper on it. The question I ask every one of us, have we averted our minds to want to go back to the subject matter of what transpired, i.e. the government white paper following the recommendations from the Badaway Commission? What happened and what have we learned from that? From there,
Listowell, before you continue, and we're going to pull up the document very shortly so that we go into the details and the recommendations. But one of them is that Asante Kotoko and Accra Hearts of Oak have to play a commemorative game every season. That Asante Kotoko and Accra Hearts of Oak have to play a commemorative game every season. That has not happened. Kindly carry on.
Nat, that is one of the things that do bother me a lot. And with the greatest of respect to the big guy, Herbert Mensah, I want to appreciate him for how consistent he has been trying to remind us of the ills of May 9. But I ask, must it be Herbert Mensah who would almost always every year remind Ghanaians of the despicable happenings, which for me are remarkable, negative as it would be in our football, to want to tell Ghanaians that something happened May 9, 2001. You know, this is an area that is tricky for me. It can take me a whole day to want to digest and discuss and argue out the pros and cons of the fallouts of the May 9. But that said, let's look at the Tamefe Commission also. It gave us the opportunity somehow to want to look at our football and what we will bring to bear, trying to sanitize the game. What did we make of it? Now, from there, I'm also going to talk to you about number 12. Number 12 happened. Forget about who believes in what. The controversies are galore, but the rest are ashes. What happened from the normalization committee following from the fallout of number 12? It was for me another golden opportunity for us to want to sanitize our game. And if you remember, there was an incident that happened in Kumasi years back when Kotoko engaged Accra Hearts of Oak, and you would all attest to the fact that Kotoko Hearts of Oak games in Kumasi are almost always exciting much as they are controversial. You remember there was this committee that was put together by the Honorable Mubarak Muntaka, who was sports minister then, led by my good friend lawyer Marshall Bellier, what's called the Marshall Bellier Administrative Committee of Inquiry. They were seated at the Regional Coordinating Council in Kumasi. They also put together a report and submitted the report. You know what happened, the skirmishes and all of those happenings, negative happenings. And I'm asking, all of these points that I've adduced, all of these points that I've cataloged, these are documented, they are empirical, and they are for me very impeccable opportunities that we had as a nation, if you like, to want to sanitize our game. And now I can assure you, and I can tell you, the reports from all of these committees that the nation invested not just money, but time, perishable time, you know, and all of those that the nation invested in these committees. What have been the returns? How have we learned from them? How have we been guided by these ones? And so it looks like anytime there's almost what I call much ado about nothing relative to our desire to want to fix the game and to sanitize the game. And now let me wrap up on this before my colleagues will come in. Now, if you ask me going forward, I'm sure we're just going to be opening up all this and have urgent, detailed discussions if time would permit us. Look, where we are today, I have been around, you have been around, all of you guys have been around football for many, many years. And one of the things that do hurt me, you know, is that, look, everybody is a judge. Most people, I should say, are judges. They are lawyers, they are plaintiffs, they are defendants, they are witnesses in the same matter. And what it means is that we are just going to crash and put ourselves under the bus. Look at the composition of the Ghana Football Association. From time immemorial, even up until now that we have had opportunity to sanitize the game, if we had the intentions of bettering our lot, is that there's this person who is the president or whatever, a vice president and executive committee members. These are members or people who own football team and or teams, a chain of teams. These people who manage our football are supposed to be independent bodies, so they are able to bring to bear their professional football acumen to wanting to better our lot, are the same people who own football teams. Now, these people who own football teams are heads of committees under the Ghana Football Association, including heads of the referees appointment committees, whose football teams are playing in the Premiership, the Division 1, the Division 2, and all of the other football teams. Nat is the head of the referees appointment committee. Nat is the chairman of the Joy FM referees appointment committee. Nat decides or not appoint or pretends the appointment of a referee who is supposed to negotiate or referee a game. Look at it. The lawyers will tell you to try and, infer and make references to make cogent argument going forward. Now, if this happens, straight up, you are sacrificing independence, you are sacrificing sincerity, you are sacrificing genuineness and all of that. You can infer and refer, and that will still, for me, make some sense. Now, let me wrap up again with this one. Look, a lot of us journalists, media practitioners, a lot of us opinion leaders, a lot of us who have influence in one way or the other in checking the system as we're trying to do right now, are also soiled with commitment to football teams. In those days, in the 1990s, early 2000s, you didn't have a journalist who was a spokesperson for a football team. You didn't have a journalist who was aligned and related to a football team. The journalists stood in their lane. The football administrators were in their lane. Dhaka was on its own. But now, you see, the problem here is that we are tainted, and so we are not also able to dispassionately, sincerely, journalistically address the issues to want to put people on their feet to ensure that our football is the better for all of us. And for me, our setbacks are galore. Not.
Well, you can also join us from wherever you are. Just make sure to send a message via our WhatsApp platform. +233 244 +233 5511 11997 +233 5511 11997. All right, so let's come back to Atapoku. He started off the conversations, and so a lot has been said at this time. You have people who have been involved in this game and seen a certain era. Now, this conversation about the ownership structure and what the current laws of the Ghana Football Association dictate regarding the membership of the FA and all of that, and how the administrative structure of the FA should be placed. I'm asking this: are we sure that the football collective, or what we call football people, or the main stakeholders of the Ghana Football Association, are we sure that they are ready for that switch where would have an independent body run the Ghana Premier League? Let me begin with you, Atapoku.
Well, Matt, it's quite obvious they wouldn't. They wouldn't want that because they will lose some power, and it's that power that indicates whether you're even going to remain in the league, or you'd be relegated, or you're going to win the league or not. There's one popular saying amongst the football collective, as you want to call them. I call them Republic of Football. They tell you that it is not your turn. It is not your turn refers to both positions at the FA and whose turn it is to qualify from Division 2 to Division 1, or Division 1 to the Premier League, or to win the Premier League. This is where we are. It's not actually on merit anymore. And if they lose this power, a lot will go away from them, because then they would have to compete at the level footing. Now, if we are going by the CAF statutes, where we have the president of an FA chairing the CAF referees committee or appointment committee, it doesn't work well. You would need the professional to be in charge. You decouple this from the people at the FA. Like you already said, the ownership structure within is said that I have a football club. My football club is playing in the league. and then I have the power to appoint referees. Well, it is not just that power I wield that. I actually have the power to make a referee progress on the ladder or not, from class 2, class 1 to a FIFA referee. So these referees, voluntarily or involuntarily, go to venues trying to please people at the hierarchy at the FA so that they can move up the ladder and get a FIFA badge. So at times they are not even sent by these people to do any damage to anyone, and they will just go and do it because of the way the system has been built. And it's likewise adjudicating of matters. When you have people who claim to be independent, being influenced by the FA structure, it makes it difficult for us to accept it. So I agree with the autonomous move. If the league is managed outside of the prison of the FA, it will be better. The clubs make up the Premier League, the CEOs meet and then talk. But if you have a Premier League board, somebody who has been appointed based on merit running, like a general manager of the franchise system, you are good to go. Let's take this power away from people involved in football, the football collective or the football republic, as I call them. Once you take this power away from them, you are halfway through to trying to sanitize the system. Because some of the things that happen, it is not just about clubs, ownership, result. No, even security is affected because of the way we run our football. And it's going to be difficult. Mr. Ansah is the current security coordinator for the FA. He's also the chief executive officer for Sweden All Blacks. So he works for All Blacks. He's the security coordinator. All Blacks are trying desperately to play and qualify for the Premier League from Zone 2. Their last game I watched was a game at Obuasi against Dubiase. They had not lost a single game prior to that game. That All Blacks came, played, nothing happened. But before the game, there was so much rancor. Why? Because Mr. Ansah is pro-regime and Yakubu Abdul Salam is anti-regime, and that people felt that Mr. Ansah was going to influence security on the day, even when the truth is that it is the home team that provides security. So we have to be cautious of how we've wedged in club owners into such critical positions within the football industry. It doesn't help them. It doesn't help the larger industry. And I would always reference what I started with, the referee situation. If there is someone at the EXCO that is going to liaise and tell us, I'm the chairman of the appointment committee, I'm working with referees manager or whoever it is to appoint people, how are referees going to be fair to that person opponent when that person is playing against an opponent and is the same person appointing a referee or influencing the appointment of a referee to come and officiate a particular game? It's difficult, and that's what has led to the popular saying on the streets of football that there are some referees who are executioners. They are specifically sent in to come and execute a particular agenda.
Well, it's a sad reality. First of all, the football collective. I'm talking about the key stakeholders who are just a little over 100 will remain, would like things to remain the way they are, and so making this suggestion that we need to have an independent body is still English being spoken, is still a projection being made in speeches and all of that. We've heard all of that in past years, but getting this done and executed is a different matter. Now, Listowel raised a very important point about the recommendations, the government white paper, the Okujetu Commission's white paper on the May 9 disaster, which made major recommendations. Unfortunately, this has not necessarily been done. And as he mentioned as well, and being honest and fair, one key person been the sole driver of commemoration or yearly commemoration and consistent commemoration of this disaster is Mr. Herbert Mensah, who previously served as CEO of Kumasi Asante Kotoko and now is the president of Africa Rugby. Let me come to you, Yao. Yao, we've lived here, we've been here. It's been so many years after that unfortunate incident, and it's just like we've just put the recommendations in a shelf and we're running and going back and forth and doing our thing.
Yeah, Nat, Listowel and Atapoko have raised very, very salient points. And I think we can all agree, based on that alone, the independence of a football regulator, not only will this ensure the credibility of the league, it will test the fitness of the owners. How much are they willing to bring on board whatever they're bringing to take Ghana football to the next level, to run their clubs, not just for 1 or 2 seasons, but to be sustainable. What are they bringing on board? How money flows through the Ghana Premier League to the lower divisions, to breaking down that pyramid in football, which has totally been thrown away. And I think this is something that all of us perhaps have lost sight of. We've literally folded our arms and said, well, let's go. So it's very complex. And if we want change, perhaps, sadly to say, we may have to pull everything down again and start. Otherwise, you and I, Nat, are literally powerless to move beyond what we're doing now. Yes, we know what the problems are, but if the people in charge of the vehicle are saying that there is no fault with the vehicle and we are going to travel from Accra to Kumasi and it's okay, those of us in the vehicle must either leave it or find a way to get a new driver or to ensure that the vehicle is fixed before we continue on that journey. And I think that's basically it. Whether legalities, whether it's emotional sentiments from the fans, you cannot take away the emotions. The fans will bring that extra energy. That is why football is so rich, because of that connection and attachment. But here you are, we have a situation where all of us are saying we have a very big problem on our hands. All of us, except the people who have been entrusted to hold this precious game in their hands. So with it too, where do we go from here, Nat? And then you've got journalists. And there was a point raised by Listower regarding the neutrality of the media as well. That's another issue we need to look at. But you see, that has also come about because of the way the system has been able to manipulate stakeholders in order to run it the way it's been run all these years. So there needs to be a drastic change. And when you bring it down to what we're seeing now, somebody being killed, and thank you for the correction. I think Mr. made a very good point that you cannot determine whether it was premeditated. You've got to prove that. But it would appear that this person came from outside the stadium, was not within the stadium and committed this crime. But I think he has a good point when you talk about legalities. Beyond that, Nats, we've seen the leadership of the FA trying to close in their ranks, trying to unify the football stakeholders. But clearly, it is not working. And I'm told the leader of the FA at the moment is unwell, so he's not in Ghana. We wish him a very safe and speedy recovery because we're in crisis. And this is the time you need leadership. It is very important that Keto Kuriku, health first, I think it's important that he takes care of his health. Beyond that, he must also delegate the leaders who would now take over and ensure this crisis is solved or at least resolved. And we're not seeing that, Nats. We're not seeing the leadership from the GFA. And that's a problem. It's a worry for the fans. It's a worry for corporate Ghana. It's a worry for the media. It's a worry for stakeholders. And the new minister in charge has a Herculean task, a big headache in dealing with this matter without anybody saying it's interference. This, old excuse that we keep using, interference. At least the minister shows some leadership. He's been able to see the family of the deceased. He's been able to sit with Asante Kotoko, the stakeholders. He's had discussions with the FA in Accra. He's also been to see the life patron and the owner of Asante Kotoko. And I think these are positives we can take from in moving the conversation forward. As it stands now, there will be no Ghana Premier League until some issues have been resolved and the clubs, or at least Asante Kotoko, on behalf of clubs, because you see, it's not just about Asante Kotoko. If they don't feel safe, their players, their fans, I think it's the same for Accra Hatterburg. It's the same for Eswatreman. It's the same for Brekum Chelsea. So we need to really agree that this is the problem and this is how we're going to address it. But the biggest problem we have now is the lack of leadership and direction. And if we don't resolve it, it could affect the whole entire setup of Ghana football.
Thank you, Yao. We're still here on the Joy Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM, reaching us, our a global audience, friends joining us from all over the world to discuss this matter of how to recover from this rather dark period in domestic football. Domestic football is the platform on which every other thing stands. And once it's shaky, everything else is shaky. And as has been articulated by my guests who have contributed to the show so far, there's a lot of work to be done. We come here week in, week out to discuss these issues. We provide the solutions. We offer the solutions. We suggest the solutions, but we don't seem to be moving as fast as we're supposed to be moving. And that is one major denominator that's running across the themes of the conversations that we're having this afternoon on the show. You can send us your messages. We'll be glad to have them and share with everyone else. It's the 055 1111997 or +233 55 1111997. I'll go back to Bismarck Owusu-Bempare in a bit, where we've tried our best to, rework the line so that he can give us his final thoughts and wrap up with us. Now, we've raised a couple of issues. Now, issues of the white paper. One positive element within the recommendations of the white paper are the fact that a special fund was set up, and the main mission or the main task given the administrators of that fund was to ensure that the children of all the deceased persons be catered for when it came to their education up to the tertiary level, and it has to be ensured that they complete. And if we all do remember, some of the children who completed university were sent to the presidency to say thank you to His Excellency the President then at the time, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Away from that, there are some elements of it which I have mentioned. One key one that I've mentioned is, which I believe can easily be achieved and easily be executed and adhered to, is Kumasi Asante Kotoko and Accra Hearts of Oak, who are the lead actors within our Ghana Premier League, to play a commemorative game every year, for the May 9 disaster. This has not happened, and would have to go to them to ask them why this is the case and why there's no supervision or no leadership, as Jan Pofankra has put it. Bismarck, there are these conversations that have gone on about football, the conflict of interest, which seems to be a comfortable place or a very safe haven for all our football administrators, because they get to run their clubs and they get to dictate what happens in Ghana football because of the structure of the laws, which enables them to take up positions within administration of Ghana football. And this just seems to be the position. So if we go forward, going further into the future, if all of this advocacy doesn't work and we still have the same structure, what kind of threat does it pose? And are we able to work with the same structure and ensure that we have change, even though we have, club owners and club representatives who occupy sensitive positions within football administration? Are we able to operate it going further into the future without any troubles if this advocacy fails?
No, you see, it's very, very important that even with the basis of this matter being premeditated or not, even if we grant that narrative, we must be careful to understand that why will someone premeditate a matter of folly and decide to use a football environment to do it? It means that there's a certain space within our football where crime can be exercised and people see it as a potential place to commit whatever crime they want to commit. Again, why would someone want to kill bowling in Smartmatic? What and its name in the football? Football with him. So we no matter how we decide to have this discussion, if we come back to the environment of football, we must discuss this. But through GPL center campaign that we did, intermittently we've been doing an advocacy on beyond the 3 points. And for us in Kumasi, we think that if you look at within our game, it's because those who are involved in running the football and those who actually stakeholders of football, which are the clubs, are so bent and obsessed on 3 points to the extent that they will give you
Okay, apologies for the cut in the sound. He is in a position where he's unable to use any other means to make the comments. Thank you very much, Bismarck. Bismarck Osubempa, the editor of Insura Sports there, he was making a point about, going beyond the 3 points. It's one very big, project that our team in Kumasi have been embarking on, so that clubs look beyond matters of just getting the 3 points, because that getting the 3 points at all cost is also an underlying factor for some of these unfortunate incidents that's happened. So then how do clubs move away from just getting the 3 points on the field of play? Because of course, if they broaden their horizon and broaden their scope, it just also affects positively other aspects of running their clubs. And that brings us to Listowel Yesubukasin. Listowel, our clubs are obsessed with the 3 points. And hey, let's not get it twisted. After all of this is said and done, everyone wants to win.
Well, you kind of took the sail out of my mouth, because what is football, competitive football, so to speak, without the 3 points? I mean, that's all there is to want to compete for. After you made all of those kind of investment that we are talking about, bottom line is what? You must come home a winner. And coming home a winner means you must garner the 3 points and go home. Otherwise, there's no point. The question actually for me should be, beyond the core objective of annexing the 3 points, what next? Football should not be summarized or epitomized to the question of just the 3 points. It's the 3 points and beyond that. And this takes me back to a very, very cogent point that Yao made. And we cannot be hypocritical about what it is that we should be talking about relative to wanting to fix and sanitize the game. If we must change the tide for the better, we must look at leadership. We must look at political will, political leadership. Over the years, we have heard people say our football is apolitical, our football is independent of politics. And you raised that point of the so-called interference. It's subjective. We just have to see how we define whether or not a move by the political leadership is interference. If we have to let things happen, then I think that political leadership must be up, strong, able, and ready to bite, and bite very well. So if we don't get to the point where the executive would say, look, football matters matter, and there's a lot about football, there's a lot about sports that do go down to the very fabric of the common Ghanaian, and therefore we have the responsibility of ensuring that the people, as in the common Ghanaian, is happy, and not the people, as in the group called football people, must be happy. You don't put the cart before the horse if you want to fix our sports. Who are the so-called football people without the common Ghanaian? The so-called football people who do football do not do football because the so-called people enjoy football. They do that because Ghanaians must enjoy football. And so for me, it has to be the question of which one is paramount, the bigger picture. The bigger picture is not just the so-called football people. The bigger people is not the so-called greedy football people. The bigger picture is not the so-called self-centered football people. It is about a common Ghanaian who goes to the stadium to want to enjoy football, who goes to contribute their quota and their love, if you like, to association football. And so it is those people who do not for all the rights in China, be disadvantaged because a group called football people are footballing our football. And of course, they do that at the expense of everybody. And they would not stop. Because now, the common, ordinary human being is greedy. Everybody who do what they have to do for one reason or the other has what I call interest at the core of what they do. And so the football people, so-called, cannot deceive us and pretend that they are better placed because they make investment to administer our game to the collective interest of the common Ghanaian. That's a lie. It is because they have interest at the core of what they do. And now, if these people have this interest, which for me is born out of greed, then you are rest assured that for them it is about that interest they have to actually perpetuate. And so it has to be a political will. It has to be this president, this sports minister who says, look, let's have a conference. Let's put A, B, C, D stakeholders. And if we get our stakeholders, let's consider what the public relations people call our publics and bring them together. And let everybody come from an independent position. And let's want to structure our football and our game. And then once we would have done that, we'll have a working paper, a working document. And every one of us must admit and accept to live to the spirit and letter of whatever it is document that conference would have brought about. And then we can go forward. Look, let me say this. I'm not sure, apologies to my colleague and friend, Yao Franca. We cannot pretend anymore. Yao has what I call impeccable knowledge of the game. He has lived the game. You and I know where Yao stands relative to our politics in Ghana. You know where I stand. And so I have said somewhere that, look, if this sports minister and many others want to succeed, assuming without admitting that they don't want people to misguide and mislead them, this minister must be falling on people from the media, at least those I know who have some allegiance to this government. Mohammed Al-Hassan, you know Mohammed Al-Hassan, he's been around for many years from Radio Gold days. He's the football person. He was actually on the Marshall Bellier committee that investigated what happened in Kumasi between Accra House of Rock and Asante Kotoko. That culminated in the setup of the committee by Muntaka, then sports minister. Mohammed is there. Bring him. You have Yao that I've mentioned right now. Bring Yao Pafanka. His brother has been sports minister before. Yao is a sports person. His allegiance to the party is not in question. Our own colleague, Mickey Chance. Mickey Chance has been around for many, many years as a sports journalist. He's still running around doing football. Bring Mickey Chance around. There are a few guys who know our sport and our game in the media who can support and help the sports minister, who can tell, don't go here, go there, do that, and then guide and support him. And then people who have been around, like those of us on the platform right now, Nats, you are there, Atapoku is there, Bismarck and all of those other guys and the people I've not mentioned, solicit opinion from them, because you alone as a sports minister, you cannot do it. And I can bet you, these football people would not, and I emphasize, would not just give in that easily. The sports minister must be up. He's talking. I'm listening to some of the interviews. I'm reading some from My Joy Online, and I'm looking at your infographics of the things that he has said. These are massive things he's saying. But what do we see and know from history? History has taught us that of all the ministries, the sports ministry have almost always had a good number of rapid changes of sports ministers. It tells the common mind that it's not a place cool enough to go swim. And if you must survive the tide right there at that sports ministry with all of those apologies, should I say a gang or I don't know what word to use, that group who think that, look, it must be us. And finally, Nat, I don't know if this will be outside of the discussion, but of course it's related. And I listened and watched when the FA people visited Asante Kotoko at the Kotoko Secretariat. It was not funny, and it's not funny. From when the incident happened at Nswatri, and the head of the Kotoko management team made that point. There are no brains around this. Nobody should be fooled around this. Nobody should play smart. and think that without them, football will not thrive or move on. I am hearing and I am reading that the FA president is unwell. Look, Kurt is a friend. Kurt is a brother. Kurt and I have been around for a long time. We are, like all of you guys, related in one way or the other to Kurt. But I can tell you, Kurt could be sick. I agree. I mean, nobody jokes to anybody's health. But you don't want to see the FA president's face to mean that he's been available. Maybe you have seen the FA president signature a document to try to empathize with Kotoko. Maybe you have seen, I have not seen it. If the FA president is sick, there's so many ways in modern day public relations. And this is why I look at Henry and what he's doing there in his office. Great guy, nice guy, but he must come up. You can issue a press statement that is written that we know. You can do a video press statement. You can do an audio press statement. All kinds of communications in terms of press statement can be done. Can Kurt not talk? Can Kurt not do a video? Can Kurt not sign a paper to empathize with Kotoko and assure the nation that, look, I'm in charge and that this is unfortunate and that we are putting in place pragmatic measures to want to fix the setbacks going forward. I am unwell, and when I get well, I will show my face in meetings and discussions and communications to bring the love back. Is that too much to ask? So that when Asante Kotoko, in the situation they find themselves in, gather at the secretariat to appreciate and welcome the FA, Odo Safo is a big brother. Odo Safo and I in Kumasi, I'm just being sincere with all of us. Odo Safo stands up and all he says to the people right there in the face and in the midst of all of that to mount a defense of the FA president. Of course, let me qualify that. A questionable defense, because it's his word against whoever's word. There's nothing empirical to evidence the claim that the FA president is unwell. So you are giving me room to question.
Mr. Well, before you carry on, let's look at this within the cultural context as well. We all do know as well that issues of one's health, normally looking at the sensitive nature, are issues that normally are kept in the background. I do agree with the position on the fact that he occupies a sensitive position and that adequate communication has to be made about his unavailability, and they shouldn't have waited for that moment, at the meeting with Asante Kotoko before reacting, because this should have been a proactive measure. But don't we also think, because I mean you're asking yourself a very simple question, until you have sent him a WhatsApp message to check on him or anything, or maybe he may have told you that XXNY is wrong with me. Normally, people just keep all of those, in the background.
Now, to see the sensitive nature of the discussion we are having requires proactive, sensitive, respectful action and reaction. The question for me rather should be, when the incident happened at Nsuakre, the FA president and the Kotoko lead, the question, have they had the opportunity to at least speak if they cannot meet behind closed doors? Before that meeting, after all of those other stakeholders had met and empathized with Kotoko, did the FA president pick up a phone to call the Kotoko head to say, this is the FA president, I call to empathize with you and the team, I'm unwell, take my word, once I get well, I will conference you, I'll sit down with you, we will find a way going forward. We should be asking those questions. What happened behind the scenes between the two parties, the two bodies, the two enviable institutions? So that even before the FA people got to the Kotoko secretariat, it would be known to the Kotoko leadership that the FA president is unwell. That's respect. That's readiness and preparedness to want to fix a matter going forward. It didn't have to take the Kotoko leader to raise the issue and question the whereabouts of the FA for Odo Safo to respond the way he did. And you know what? in communication, there's so much about your manners, your reactions, your demeanor, and all of that, rather than your words. And when he stood up to speak, check his reactions, his demeanor, and check what he said before he made that point. I'm not going to be able to say that verbatim, but this is what he said. Let me say this. You media people here, you would go and say the FA people did not come. So what was the need for that point? He didn't need to say, you media people, you will go and say the FA people, the FA president is not here, and this and that and that. He didn't need to say that. To say that to the legal mind means that you have a position to want to defend, which is why you said what you said. You could have said, oh, the man is not well, and once he gets well, he will show up. Finito. So now, back to my point of why we do not have to pretend, is that as we speak, we have been speaking for how long? You and I have been speaking for over 20 years or more about football. And from where I started, all the way from 2001 till today, have we not had series of platforms and opportunities, which opportunities, if we had maximized, we will not be here to be talking about somebody dying because of football? We would have at least made an impact. But where are we? So for me, it shouldn't be the question of just get up and talk.
Well. Let's get into, conversations about, what we want to task the actors to now, because we've also taken a bit of the blame, and I'm very glad that Jan Pofuankra, made mention of that we are also a part of all of this, and we've had our shortcomings within all of this. Let me read this message from Kofi Boachi of Ahoma Clothing. Kofi Boachi says, "Hello, Nat. The problem is how we manage conflict of interest in our football. Football people should not run the FA. At certain positions, one must not own a club or even have a stake or interest in a club. There should be a regulation to that effect." Thank you very much, Kofi Boachi, for that message. Also, Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe sent a message. He says that this is a leadership failure and the response from the FA does not go far enough. Now, the overgeneralization is not good enough, and we should call out those who have made contributions to this. There is criminality involved here. Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe is a board member of Accra Hearts of Oak as well. Keep the messages coming in. We'll reach our WhatsApp console and get in to these messages as well. We'll try our best to do some time with the phone lines and see if you can get through with your thoughts as well. Yal Ampofuankra will now get us what he feels we should do. Now, this element of changing the laws, the same people have to go to Congress and have to say, okay, now we want to switch over the format of administration where those of us who own clubs and represent clubs will not be part of it. It's been said that it sure will be difficult. But there's also another element of the money and the financial standing of our football clubs and how they are unable to take care of some of the basic requirements within our football club licensing regime under FIFA. Yao, the element of security, for instance, because we're discussing this incident. Asante Kotoko, for instance, have made that recommendation that they want the Ghana FA itself to take over security. The IGP, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, has said that he's setting up a unit within the Ghana Police Service to take care of matchday security. Now the question is, looking at the numbers we record at our stadia, do we have the requisite numbers, even within the service itself generally, to even form a whole unit and get them to come and, this goes even beyond just football. It's a matter of the finance ministry. Are they able to support this kind of addition? Or are the security services going to expand? The Ghana Police Service going to expand its recruitment so it can take in these numbers? How do we practicalize this?
Yeah, Nat. It is definitely possible. It can be done. And you've got category A matches, or let's say Ghana versus Nigeria in Kumasi. That's an international game. So if we're able to mobilize national security with regular law enforcement agencies, especially trained crowd control units for these kind of matches, and of course the military combination, task force, and then plain clothes, which is obviously the national security. Why not train stewards in how to deal with supporters and fans? It can happen. We need to invest in football. I mean, if we're spending millions upon millions in qualification series, in tournaments, and we're not able to actually invest in the ecosystem of the game, then there is something seriously wrong there. There is the other option that I do know at the last conversations I had, that Togbe Afede Autonomous League Committee, we have the likes of the chairman, Dr. Tony Orban, they have completed all the documentation for the establishment of the Autonomous League. So a Ghana Premier League Company Limited, to the best of my knowledge, has been established. The question we should also be asking, what is preventing us from implementing this autonomous league? There are a lot of conversations to be had. What are the pros and cons? But I've mentioned two personalities who need no introduction in our football space, especially Dr. Afede, His Eminence, and then Dr. Tony Orban, who was one of the founding brainchilds of the Black Stars rebirth onto the international stage by qualifying to the World Cup because of the business strategy that was used at the time when His Excellency President James IV mandated Honorable Yao Osafo-Marfo, then Sports Minister, that this is a national project. Kwesi Nyantakyi has come to see me and he says we need to do this and that. Dr. Orban has also advised that we can do this and that. Let's put together a team to help the Black Stars qualify. And this was off the field. And Kwesi Nyantakyi would be the first to admit that one of the areas or one key factor in helping the Black Stars to qualify for the 2006 World Cup was the implementation of that President J.'s initiative to make sure we leave no stone unturned. Sponsorship wasn't a problem. Motivation wasn't a problem. Let's get them the best hotels when they travel. Let's make sure we mobilize and make it a national assignment. And it was done. And that template basically stayed with us for many years, 3 consecutive World Cup qualifications, until obviously there were issues outside of football, if I would put it that way. That's another conversation. So we still have a hope and a chance to get involved and make this happen with this autonomous league. And if you have personalities like Dr. Tony Orban and His Excellency Togbe Afede, or His Royal Highness Togbe Afede, then nuts, I think all is not lost. All is not lost yet.
Okay, well, we'll see how that goes. And obviously would want to also look further into the structure of this Ghana Premier League Company Limited that has been incorporated. Has it been incorporated already? If it's been incorporated already, then obviously by law there are certain features that this company should have. For instance, its directors and the share structure and all of that. All of these will come in, and all these are things we'll discuss as we go forward. But just as Yao has said, practicalizing it is another very major step. Atapoku, we are practicalizing, all the suggestions. Now it will take I don't know how long it will take for us to get the football competitions back. Asante Kotoko, for instance, have said that they will not take part in any competition organized by the Ghana FA until the recommendations they've made have been made manifest. Okay, so then it means that we're going into a very lean period, and that also has an effect. Hello, Attoh, are you still with us? All right, if Attoh is not with us, let's go to Listowell. Listowell, I was just asking the question about this whole period where there's a lean season, there's no football, and matches are not being played. So then we're waiting to have certain key measures put in place so we can get our football going. But also there are always issues of finance and how these clubs can afford to do certain things and how clubs are unable to afford to do certain things. There are categories of games, obviously, so the security requirements differ. But looking at what has gone on and what is also prompting these measures that are being put in place, what will be the ideal numbers that you, from where you sit, what will be ideal numbers of security that you'd suggest? I mean, we're not security specialists, but at least from the consumer's point of view, for somebody to see in terms of even visibility, visible, security, and those who are also put in plain clothes for strategic reasons. What are the kinds of numbers you are looking at for each regular game of maybe like a 20,000 fan attendance? Listowell?
What are we playing the league for? What is there to play for in the league? This league season that we are playing, what is there to play for? Can I get an answer why we are playing the league? What is it? Why would anybody put money in the league? Why? What's the point? What's the sense? What's the economic sense in being a part of the Premiership today? Let's see what your production team would bring subsequent from this discussion. How teams in other African countries benefit from playing their respective leagues across the continent. We have no sponsorship. That's the drive. There's no commitment and contribution from the so-called football people to the teams. I have been in football management before, and especially at Asante Kotoko. I can tell you, it's not kids play to run a team like Kotoko. The kind of investment you would make in the league. When was the last time a team like Kotoko or Accra Hatofo sold a player for, say, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 American dollars? Other leagues across the continent are selling players for $500,000 American dollars, $1 million American dollars. And so if they don't have sponsorship, the teams or the leagues are well organized, competitive, devoid of influence and all of that. And so it brings the best out of these players, which players make the market value for the hundreds of thousands of American dollars. And once they do sell, they can put the investment back in the team, even if they don't have sponsorships, even if spectators don't turn up for the games. At Kotoko, we have 3 ways of raising money. One, we ensure that we had sponsorship. It was during Dr. Kiki Sapon's time when I was part of that management. And go back to the annals. It will tell you how many sponsorships Dr. Kiki Sapon brought to Asante Kotoko. Remarkable. Because for us, we had the likes of Kwame Bamiako, Dr. Patrick Kofori, Beninti, and all of us, with the greatest of respect, were people who were playing football from some position of education. And so we realized that, look, we needed to keep the team going. And 3 core cogent ways of raising money was 1, sponsorship. So we invested time in engaging corporate Ghana and raising all the risk it was for us to be able to raise. We also invested time in promoting our games, doing the public relations, creating the controversies that will sell the game, and marketing the games, and people attended our games. And then it was during Kiki time.
Yeah, and I also remember some very key partnerships with very well-established clubs,
Yes, I was coming to that point.
Yeah.
We did that kind of agreement with a number of teams. And look, we invested time. Also, that is when that if you like, Dr. Kiki was called Titipon. You remember those days? At the time when we were raising the players, We're raising them from Division 2, Division 3, Division 1, and these academies in Ghana. And they will bring us the likes of Yawa Champong, Yafrimpong, they'll bring us Awar Mohammed, they'll bring us Baba Rahman from Ket Streams FC, and they bring us these hitherto unknown players. We brought them the opportunities, we brought the best in terms of coaches, i.e. when we brought Masokunelu from Wild All Stars, and we ensure that these players played a certain pattern and met a certain European international requirements. So these players will just fit into the respective teams who are partners to which we could transfer players. And look, the more we sold players at the time, in the face of all the controversies, the more we won the league. Check our records. We sold more players for 3 years, 4 years running, and we won the league for 2, 3 years running and won the champion of champions in Ghana.
Very well.
Football must play to a certain pattern. With that, I was going to make this point. Tony Obin, Yampa Franca raised Tony Obin. Tony Obin's influence and impact on our game is unquestionable from when I have come to know him from Diamond. When Diamond, if you remember, sponsored the Black Stars. The mining friend in Diamond sponsored the Black Stars. He's been around football till this time. For this committee and this report that they've given us, what's the name again? That you mentioned the name, Football Premier League something Limited.
Yeah.
Right? That you just mentioned it. And this company was put together by Tony Obin and the respectable Togbe Afede. Look, no individual, much as I know in Ghana today, has invested so much in football than Togbe Afede. How is this person not given the opportunity to be a part of our game? How is that person not given the opportunity to be part of our game? All the football people put together, I'm not sure they've invested much more than Togbe Afede has done. And not with just any team, but with an enviable club like Accra Hearts of Oak. Tony Obin has history. So yes, coming back to the same point, if we want to survive, let's respect people who have the acumen. Come to the round table and let's judge all.
Very well. Let's bring Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe. He is a board member of Accra Hearts of Oak. He's got thoughts to share with us as we get to the finish line of the show. Apsu, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much, Nat. Yeah, so Nat, you see, the challenges we're dealing with has to do with the leadership of our game and how low we have allowed us to sink. But we need to call spades spades. And, you know, if you sit in a league where there are some clubs, the security infrastructure in their home games are so bad, you know, but you find out that those clubs, you know, every home game they would win it. And you get into the places. So you get to the stadium like Accra and Kumasi, where you have an inner perimeter, where there's a lot of security in there, and you don't have that situation happening. And again, we are a country that seems to not to learn. And so we've mentioned all the various commissions that have been set up. Why have we not implemented this? And the so-called football people we mentioned, a lot of the things that we have been doing have resulted in us not qualifying for AFCON for the very first time. But just go and draw a trajectory. You will find out that this decay has been happening consistently from the point where we were getting to the finals to where we're getting to the semi-finals and to this particular point. So we need to tell them, we need to tell all of us and say the way we have been running our football has been getting us to the point that we've gotten to. And so we need to change it. And some of the things that we do are bare criminality. And so when we should take the football around it and deal with them as a conflict of interest, where we have people themselves who, you know, have started some small clubs, and they are the people running the football and deciding and influencing the way, you know, things happen locally. And so we go internationally and we are getting nowhere. We need to fix that and make sure that this autonomous league that we are talking about, we actually get the autonomous league to work. So we get independent people to run the business for us. And they run the football as business. So that the KPIs are set for ourselves. The ability measures are put in there, good corporate governance is put in there, and we make sure that these things work. We talk about teams that are not paying salaries, but there are clubs that are paying good salaries, that are taking care of their people, that are investing in it. So we should not lump everybody together. If we do that, then instead of finding solutions to the problem, we'll not be able to do that. But it is very important that the proposals that have been made by Asante Kotoko and Heart of Oak be considered seriously by the minister and the FA. Because if we don't fix those things, there will be people who do not learn and would have lost a life and nothing would change. You have stadiums where you don't even have CCTV cameras in place. You have stadiums where the entrance and the where you get in and where you get out are not separated, and it's so difficult. There are stadiums where the inner perimeter is just behind the goalpost and all of those things. Things that are happening that do not merit to be called professional football.
Very well.
It is really important that we decide that this game of ours that we call football, if we want to attract all the investment that will come to it, if we want to attract the professionalism, if we want the funds to come back, then we need to make sure that the ingredients that are required to make sure that this is entertainment and this is not a life and death situation, that as a spectator you will go to the stadium with your kids and you might not come back again. It's taking off. But this way in which the FA is handling this particular situation, unfortunately, will not resolve the problem that is at stake.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe. He is a board member of Accra Hearts of Oak, bringing his thoughts to the conversation. And yes, unfortunately, we run out of time. Would like to say a very big thank you to lawyer Listuel Yesu Bukasin, previously spokesperson for Kumasi Asante Kotoko, now a lawyer based in the US, joining us from North Carolina. And also Mr. Ya Ampofo Ankra, a seasoned journalist, a senior sports journalist, who's also a lead anchor and editor of Max Sports. Thanks to Mr. Atapoku, thanks to Mr. Usubempa as well for joining us, and to all of you who sent in your messages, we're glad. Thank you so much.